Oh my goodness gracious, I've been having technical issues trying to get this video recorded. I recorded both this week and next week's video like 3 days ago, went to go edit them, and there was no audio. And now I just spent the last 30 minutes trying to figure out what was going on wrong with my mic and why it wasn't going through, but I got it figured out, and I think that is good enough of an intro to let's just jump right into the shindig. But I know I said we were just gonna jump right in, but I'm gonna do a little bit of shameless self-promotion. If you're not aware, I do have two other channels. I have we are on the movie review channel. I have a live stream channel and a food review or food channel. If you're interested in either of those, they're linked down in the description below. Check them out. I guess while you're down there, you might as well do all the YouTube formalities, like, subscribe, do all that jazz. I've noticed that there's actually a pretty good chunk of you that aren't subscribed. So if you keep coming back, might as well subscribe. Deadpool and Wolverine. I need to rethink about what I was saying when I made the video a couple of days ago, because I had a lot, because I had made the video right after watching the movie. So let me get back into that headspace. I'm going to start off right off the bat with the good things, and then we'll move on to the bad things. So what the movie did well, it did extremely well. Most of the comedy was pretty funny. There were some pretty good references to real life, like a reference to Will Smith at the Oscars? Yeah, because Grammy's the music one, right? So yeah, Oscars. The comedy in the movie was it was relatively funny. I found myself actually laughing at the movies, which is very rare when it comes to Marvel movies, especially within recent years. The comedy just doesn't hit. But in this movie, it was pretty funny. I will give credit where credit is due. It was really funny. They brought back a few people that I'm sure you've seen cameo clips of on the TikToks or the Instagram Reels or the YouTube Shorts. I'm sure you've come across most of them. I won't spoil any of them, but they did either show or bring back characters that were really interesting to bring back. Most of them I feel like are probably dead now, or I'll get into that at the end of the video when I jump into the spoilers and stuff. But back to what the movie did well, because I'm trying really hard to focus on the good, because there was a lot of good. The story, specifically involving Wolverine, anything and everything involving him, was amazing. It was very well written, very well acted. You could feel the trauma, you could feel the intensity behind Wolverine's story. And the main character that I had the most issue with, honestly, was Deadpool. He didn't really have the same vibe as like Deadpool 1 and 2, which is kind of disappointing. I know I couldn't really expect the same vibe, especially because Disney is a pretty big committed tied to this movie, since Fox was bought by Disney and stuff. But all in all, I think the acting was relatively well done. However, we'll go into the negatives now, because I do have a little bit more to say when it comes to the negatives. Like I said at the beginning, jokes were really, really good. Most of them landed. The ones that didn't land really didn't land, to the point that they were almost literally not funny. And it was very clear that they were trying to be funny. It just didn't work, if you get what I mean. And the other thing that really bugged me about this movie is the plot. So when you're making a movie, there are three key elements. You have the cinematography, you have the acting, and you have the plot. You can have a relatively bad plot if the cinematography and acting are really, really good. Unfortunately, this movie only has really, really good acting. Personally, the amount of CGI throughout this movie dragged it through the mud, especially with how much potential they could have had with practical effects. The just like buckets worth of CGI blood, extremely disheartening. I'm a huge fan of practical effects, and I'm a huge contester of practical effects look better than CGI, just hard stop. Especially nowadays when most CGI is in this weird amalgamation of like uncanny valley. Like if we go back to the early 2000s, CGI looked so much better. It's weird. I don't know why. I feel like it has something to do with the fact that a lot of CGI artists are rushed through productions and stuff. But even back then, practical effects looked better. And I feel like they could have gotten away with a lot more practical effects with the budget of this movie. If they had like cut one or two of the cameos out and just put that towards practical effects, it would have made the movie experience a lot better. And you know how I said there were 3 things to make a movie great: cinematography, acting, and the plot. Well, we're going to focus on the plot now, because my goodness golly, is it kind of a disappointment. I'm going to be honest. Don't hate me. Don't yell at me. Don't be upset with me. Let me explain. Okay? I am a huge fan of specific niche things in Marvel Universe, right? I'm not a huge fan of the X-Men. So the cameos really did not carry me through this. And honestly, I feel like I'm looking at it more of an objective standpoint. It's not that I dislike X-Men. In fact, I think most of their stories are extremely well written. I just was never a huge fan of X-Men. The only real 2 people in X-Men that I liked were Wolverine and Deadpool. It was strictly because of the Logan movie and the Deadpool movies. That was like really the only exposure to Wolverine and Deadpool that I had. But I really enjoyed those movies because they were very well written, very well animated, edited. I say animated because the amount of CGI that's in, at least in Deadpool. I went into this movie, especially with the amount of hype that was around it, and people being like, "Oh, this is revitalizing the Disney franchise. It's breathing a breath of fresh air, if you will, and bringing back Disney to its roots." But because I don't have that feeling of nostalgia or whatever for the amount of X-Men cameos, I don't really think it's not that I wasn't the target audience, because I feel like there were parts of this movie that I really did enjoy. But without that niche, loving seeing my favorite X-Men people on screen again, it was a very boring plot. And another thing that really bugs me with the way and the direction that Marvel is going is I really don't want to sit down and have to watch 2 seasons of a show to get a brief understanding of what's happening in a movie. That bugs me. It really and truly bugs me. Watching movies to understand what happens in movies, that makes sense to me. You have to watch Deadpool 1 and 2 to understand what happens in Deadpool 3. That makes sense. But having to go and watch Season 2, Episode 5 of the Loki show just to understand a reference that Deadpool makes in the middle of the movie and the whole TVA situation, that I know what those things are, but it bugs me that I have to know what those are in order to comprehend what's going on. Because I went there with a couple of my buddies and my girlfriend, and neither of my buddies or my girlfriend or I have watched the Loki show. I understand what's going on because I looked into it before going into this movie, but not everybody else did. And it just bugs me that you're forced to watch a show in order to get half of the plot, right? And that brings me up to my other point, the fact that it is a very generic plot, which Deadpool has always been kind of generic, but with a bunch of campy humor and funny niches and knickknacks, right? But this one, it was just extra bland to me. I don't know what it was specifically. I maybe it's because it's been a few days since I've seen the movie. I will admit, the review that I did the day after, it was like a couple hours after watching it, was a lot more like happy and upbeat and stuff. But now that I've given myself a few days to like settle in and really absorb what I watched, I have to admit the plot really falls flat. It's not that great for me. Like, I don't know. It just wasn't it, I guess. My cup of tea. But that brings me to my the spoiler part where I am going to talk about specifically the cameos. Starting now, so skip to the end or whatever. This is basically the end. I'm just gonna briefly touch on spoiler parts. I liked the main cameos they brought back. I'm a huge fan of Fantastic Four. Like, when it comes to Marvel, Spider-Man and Fantastic Four are my two most favorite things. And the fact that they brought back Johnny Storm from the early 2000s Fantastic Four movie was amazing. I loved that. For a multitude of reasons, because it was actually funny. It was one of the jokes that really landed with me, because there's part where Deadpool goes, "Man, you have no idea what he was doing to the budget," because of the actor that plays Johnny Storm / Captain America. So that was really, really cool. They brought back Wesley Snipes for the Blade, which I thought was really interesting. They brought back Katana, and they introduced Gambit from the movie that was supposed to come out, I think 2013. That Gambit is another character that I've always been kind of interested in some way. So getting the ability to see him, especially with that heavy Cajun accent, it was really nice. I really enjoyed anytime he was on the screen. And to be completely honest, I really enjoyed the banter and familiarity between Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds' portrayals of Wolverine and Deadpool. It felt natural. It felt like I was watching one of my friendships on the big screen. Like me and my buddy, how we act towards each other. That's how it felt on the screen, right? So, with that being said, I am going to give this movie, on the rating of a movie, a 7 out of 10. It wasn't the end all be all, but it wasn't terrible. It was above good, but it wasn't great. Now, when it comes to a Marvel movie, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10, because you and I both know Marvel has been swinging and missing for the last 3, maybe even 4 years. Ever since Endgame, most of their movies, if not all of their movies, are a little rough. So, when it comes to Marvel movies, it's a solid 9 out of 10. And with that closing thought, I don't have anything else to say. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I do have 2 other channels. Check them out. Like, subscribe, do all that jazz, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya.